We previously covered factoring polynomials where the leading coefficient was a 1. In that case, we were able to use our product sum method. However, we're now going to factor polynomials where the leading coefficient is greater than 1. If the leading coefficient is greater than 1, then we can no longer use the product sum method. The method that we'll use will be called the AC method. Let's try an example. Our first example is 2x squared, negative 3x, negative 9. We look at this polynomial and we see that the leading coefficient is greater than 1. We said that when it's greater than 1, we must use the AC method. It's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're multiplying the a times the c. So we're multiplying 2 times 9. 2 times negative 9 equals negative 18. So we have to say what times what equals negative 18. What added or subtracted to what will get us the middle term of negative 3. Well, I say to myself, 9 times 2 will give us 18. However, if I subtract or add 9 and 2, will I get 3? No. I must use two other factors. 6 times 3 will get us 18 when we multiply. And if we add or subtract 6 and 3, we'll get 3. Now it's a matter of putting in the correct signs. It must be a negative 6 and a positive 3 to make the addition subtraction correct to get a negative 3. And if we multiply negative 6 times a positive 3, we will get a negative 18. So this is what we'll use, negative 6 and positive 3. So the AC method says next to replace the negative 3x with negative 6x and positive 3x. So we're going to rewrite this polynomial. 2x squared, but instead of writing the variable term with a negative 3x, we're going to use negative 6x and positive 3x and then negative 9. So now, as you can see, we have a polynomial with 4 terms. And what did we previously do in another lesson? When we saw 4 terms, we did grouping. So I'll group the first 2 terms together. I group these together because they both have a GCF of 2 and they have x's in common. I group the second 2 together because they both have a GCF of 3. So as I factor by GCF, the GCF is 2x. 2x goes into 2x squared, x times. 2x goes into negative 6x, negative 3 times. The GCF of 3x and negative 9 is 3. 3 goes into 3x, x times. 3 goes into negative 9, negative 3 times. And if you can remember, we said when we're doing the grouping, the binomial that repeats itself lets us know we're on the right track. That's written as x minus 3 times. Those on the outside of the parentheses can be put in a parentheses together. 2x plus 3. And now we have the factorization of 2x squared negative 3x negative 9 as the quantity of x minus 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 3. And this was factoring using the AC method because the leading coefficient was greater than 1. Let's try another example. We have 3x squared plus 14x plus 8. In looking at this trinomial, you say to yourself, the leading coefficient here is greater than 1. Therefore, we must use the AC method. The AC method says our first step is to multiply 3 times that 8. 3 times 8 gets us 24. So we use that 24 and say what times what equals 24, and what times what will get us the middle term of 14. So factors of 24 can be 6 and 4, 6 and 4 make 24, but if you add or subtract, won't make 14. Let's see what else. 8 and 3. 8 and 3 make 24, but 8 and 3 will not get you 14 if you add or subtract. How about 12 and 2? 12 and 2 gets you 24 when you multiply them, and they get you 14 if you add or subtract them. In our case, add them. So we have to put in the correct signs. Positive 12 and positive 2 will get us a 14, and a positive times a positive makes positive 24. So we're going to use positive 12 and positive 2, and we're going to add x's to the end of those. So the next step in the AC method is to rewrite this polynomial. Rewrite it except for the middle term. We're going to replace this middle term with the two numbers that we have found. So we're going to rewrite it as 3x squared plus 12x plus 2x plus 8. You see, we've rewritten the 14x with the 12x and the 2x. We used the 12 and the 2 that we found over here and added x's to them, because 12x and 2x surely do make 14x. Now we see we have 4 terms. Therefore, we must use factoring by grouping. I'll group the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. The first 2 terms because they have a GCF of 3 and they have x in common. The second 2 terms because they have a GCF of 2. So I'll factor each side separately by GCF. The GCF of 3x squared and 12x is 3x. Dividing the GCF into the first term, 3x squared, gives me x. Dividing the GCF into the 12x gives us 4. Now the GCF of 2x and 8 is 2. Dividing our GCF into 2x gives us x. Dividing our GCF into the 8 gives us 4. We see the binomials in parentheses repeating themselves on both sides, so we know we're on the right track. The binomials that repeat itself can be written over once as x plus 4. Those on the outside, the 3x and the positive 2, can be put together in another set of parentheses. And that is our factorization. We factored by using the AC method, and this is because the leading coefficient was greater than 1.